Hello everyone, for Channel 6 TV Community Focus, I'm Dennis George, and we're going to the polls in less than 2 weeks on November 7th. Of course, the news you always hear about right now is the presidential election, but here locally we also have a race for 24th District State Representative, the incumbent Democrat Terry Mills, and the challenger Brandon Reed from LaRue County. And we're going to have to spend about 15 minutes with each of the candidates. And in fairness to both, we have a similar list of questions for both candidates, and then would follow up maybe depending on answers and what have you. And Brandon, welcome to Lebanon. I'm sure you've made a lot of trips over here recently.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate the invite.
Okay. I guess first of all, obviously you're from Hodgeville, LaRue County area.
Yes, sir.
Spend a minute or two to introduce yourself to the people of Marion County.
Well, like you said, I'm from Hodgeville, Kentucky, born and raised. We live on a 200-acre farm, been in the family for 5 generations in the Tonyville area. That's just north of Hodgeville. I'm married to my lovely wife, Olivia, and we have 2 small girls, Chloe, she's age 5, and Alexandria, she's 20 months old. And I have a background in ministry and also a background in the court system. Okay.
I guess the first thing, what makes someone want to get in a political race? And I'm sure there's times now you're asking yourself why, but explain what made you get into this race.
Well, I always grew up around a family of public servants, so that was kind of distilled in me at a young age. But very particularly, I can remember when I was 8 years old, I was actually a page in the House of Representatives in 1988. And I got to sit on the House floor, and I got to see the voting process, and I got to see the legislative process in action. And I tell you what, it was a seed that was actually planted in my heart, and it just kind of grew. And over my life, I just kind of excelled in that area. I was a 1999-2000 state FFA president. I served on the Governor's Commission of Family Farms for 8 years, and also served on the State Board of Agriculture. And then I served for 10 years in the Administrative Office of the Courts, going around the state of Kentucky as a field representative, training judges and court clerks. And now I just want to give back. I want to take that expertise in the executive branch and judicial branch, and I want to apply it to the legislative branch.
Okay. How would you explain to voters here what you bring to the table different than Terry Mills?
Well, what I bring to the table, I bring a diversity of background in government. Like I just said, I bring a background in executive government. I bring a background in judicial government. I want to take that expertise and apply it to legislative. I've been around the state a while. As a 1999-2000 state FFA president, I actually traveled all the 120 counties. So I'm very diversified in the different cultures of Kentucky. You know, Kentucky, as you're aware of, made up of many different cultures, many people coming together. Many had different identities from Eastern Kentucky to Western Kentucky, and we live here in Central Kentucky. So I kind of bring expertise. Terry Mills is a great individual. He's a great friend of mine. I think highly of him. But I just think our Kentucky's going down the wrong path, and we just need to change it. So what I bring to the table is that background, that expertise, and I just want to bring that from that background, bring it to the table and say, these are the changes we need to make. We need to have a backbone to expedite these changes and bring it to the table. And if we all compromise, if we all come together, we can make that happen.
All right. When you say the state is heading down the wrong direction and that we need to make changes, can you be a little bit more specific on those issues?
There's a lot of, our Kentucky is a great commonwealth. I mean, we have tremendous possibility for prosperity and expansion in different fields. But the 2 areas that really come to mind that we're going down the wrong path, one is our pension system. Right now it's only 34.7% funded. The state employees pension system is only 17% funded. The teachers is only 40% funded. And the reason that that percentage is so high is the legislative branch and the judicial branch is fully funded. And we tried to pass some laws a couple of years ago, and even this past session, to bring transparency to the system. It was actually killed in House committee and killed on the House floor. We don't know where the money is going. We also paid $130 million last year, just wasted trying to invest these funds, and we have nothing to show for it. The teachers lost about a 0.5%, state employees lost about 1%, so we're going down the wrong path. We're at a $35 billion deficit in that fund, and that affects everybody. It affects our bond rating. We can't borrow money at a higher rate no more, a lower rate no more. It affects us all tremendously. So if we don't get that under control, we've been taking out that system for so long. We can't kick the can down the road no more. It's time to stop. It's time to be responsible for our actions. And the second is Kentucky needs tremendous tax reform. As of right now, Tennessee and Indiana, they're eating our lunch, and we're stuck in the middle of tax reform. We need to look at our tax base. We need to make Kentucky business friendly. And I was explaining that today, and you can go all day and talk about the tax reform, what we need, how it can adjust. But the reason we're talking about tax reform is because it's not working. Kentucky's in a hole, and we can't get out of that hole, so we have to change it up. So I told somebody the other day, I said, let me put it to you this way. Indiana has a Bass Pro Shop. Tennessee has a Bass Pro Shop. Where's our Bass Pro Shop? And then they finally understood it.
Well, but in talking to, let's talk about tax reform. When I've talked to Republicans in the Senate or Democrats in the House, there's the thought that we need tax reform, but now is not the right time for tax reform. Or we've appointed committees, as you're well, and commissions to study it, and nothing ever becomes of it. What makes you think that at this time things could change?
Well, we're, the House has been controlled by one mindset since 1921. Doesn't make it wrong, doesn't make it right. I just think that mindset needs to change. We're only 4 House seats away from actually changing that mindset. So if we can change that mindset, we can actually put things past committee, get things out of commissions, get it to the table and say, hey, listen, this plan works. It's working for Indiana. It's working for Tennessee, and to be honest with you, those 2 states are kind of taking advantage of our stupidity right now. So if we don't put things in motion, we're going to be stuck that way for a while, and we're going down a wrong path.
All right, and then when we talk about, and you brought up the pension system.
Yes.
In the past 2 sessions, there has been some pension reform and changes made. Are you saying that further changes need to be made? Because it seems like that was a pretty solid bipartisan agreement, or what other changes should be made?
Oh, no, absolutely not. It was not a bipartisan agreement whatsoever. We actually had a surplus this year, about $500 million. Instead of putting it back into the pension system, insuring it up even more. I mean, it is $35 billion in the hole. It's only 17% funded. Within another cycle, we're going to be liquidating Kentucky assets just to pay for the pension system. Liquidating Kentucky assets means firing employees currently. So no, it's one of the biggest problems on the horizon. It affects every issue in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So what we have to do, so if, for instance, we had that extra surplus, well, the House Democrats actually wanted to put it over into a rainy day fund. Guys, it's pouring down. There's a storm outside. The rainy day is here. We should have put that money into the pension system. Every little penny we get, we need to put back into the pension system. Why? Because we've been taken out of it for so many years and not putting it back. Well, now it's time to pay the piper.
All right. What other plans or what other items are there out there that you feel that you can be the better candidate for state representative?
We have a lot of issues that's come up, and it's just kind of died on the House floor. For instance, there has, it took 10 years for pro-life legislation to come up in the House, and it's just kind of sat there. You can be for pro-life, and I when people say I'm pro-life, I want to believe them. But when you're a legislator, that means you have to be an advocate for something. That means your values, whatever your values are. For instance, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-gun, I'm pro-business, I'm pro-family values. That means if you vote for me, you know who I am and what I stand for. So when I go to Frankfort, you know that I'm just not going to sit there and be for those things. That's fine. But being for something with your words doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything. But you have to be an advocate. That means you have to stand up with a backbone, and you have to say, no, this is what I believe, this is what my district believes, and this is the road that we're going to go down. That means even if my party doesn't vote for it or does vote for it, I want to stand up for my beliefs no matter what. That's what has to take. That's what had to take place in Frankfort. That's why so many people locally in this district. That's why they're tired of state government, because it's been failing for so long. So we have to put those issues forefront and say, listen, if we're going to stand behind these issues, it's time to put our money where our mouth is, and I'll stand up and fight no matter what.
All right. So you brought up pro-life. You brought up I think gun NRA and things like that. How do those transform to the state level?
Well, on the pro-life issue, that's Roe versus Wade. That's a federal issue. Okay. That's something that on the state level we really can't change. Now, as a states combined, the 50 states, the United States of America, we can change that with action. We can change that with this election coming up with the Supreme Court. That can be changed on the federal level. That's more of a congressman and a United States senator job. But on the state level, we can actually slow down that process. For instance, I'm sure a lot of citizens, especially in Marion County, didn't know that their tax dollars was actually going to pay for Planned Parenthood. And their local legislator actually voted that way and voted for that. They're probably not aware of that. There's a lot of things that we can do on the local level to kind of slow that down. We can also, there was a bill, we can have, well, a woman can have an ultrasound, there's also a bill that come up, if and this actually involved every surgical procedure. If you're my doctor and I come to you and I want to have a surgical procedure, we try to have it where you could sit down with me and say, here's the pros, here's the cons, here's what's going to happen to your body, here's what you're going to go through, have a one-on-one consultation. We try to do that this year. Things have been stopped on the committee level, things have been stopped on the House floor, and it comes down to we need a new Speaker of the House, we need a new majority in the House, and that's not going to happen until people take personal responsibility at the polls and vote their conscience.
All right, there are those who've asked questions to me before. Why would someone in the Senate fall in line with President Stivers? Why would a Democrat in the House fall in line with Speaker Stumbo? And my response to them, and I'd like to get your opinion on it, is basically if you're of that party, in a lot of ways you have to follow the party line sometime, even if it disagrees with your own, if you want things for your district. Is that a good, bad example?
Yeah, to me, that's a person with no backbone. I mean, here's my number one responsibility as a legislator from the 24th District. Greene, Marion, and LaRue counties. Those three counties, all of those counties, all the people involved in those counties, that's my number one priority. Commonwealth of Kentucky actually comes number two. It's my responsibility to get the most and to protect the 24th District with all my might, with all my mind, and all my power. That comes number one. I don't care what goes on the House floor. I don't care what leadership says. If it goes against my district, if it goes against the majority of what my voters want, that comes first, and the buck stops here, I guess. So it comes down to somebody actually standing up and saying, no. It stops here. This is where it stops. I don't care if it's a party line or not party line. This is what I stand for. This is who I represent. There's no other question.
All right. What are any other issues in your mind that play out or that would differentiate you from your opponent?
I mean, there's a lot of issues facing Kentucky. I think I hit on the main ones. That's really what's close to my heart. Other than that, basically I come to you as a father. I come to you as a farmer. I come to you as a past public servant. So I bring those entities to the table. What differs me from my opponent? We both love the 24th District. We both love Marion and LaRue and Greene counties. They're both close to our heart. I do have an advantage in this election, and my opponent actually has a disadvantage in this election. My advantage in this election, I come from a leadership background. I come from a proven background. People that know me know that when I speak something, I back it up with actions. The disadvantage that my opponent has in this background is he's been up there for a while, and he has a voting record.
All right, but obviously when you have a voting record, it kind of opens you up to criticism or compliments one way or another.
Yes.
I think. But from a performance and what he's done with the 24th District, where would you grade that? 0. That's where I'm running. Okay. All right. And I guess my final question, because this has come up in past elections, and I'm going to pose the similar question to Terry, is obviously in past years, primarily the Republican Party would try to tie candidates to President Obama, who is very unpopular in the state of Kentucky. And some of those guys and gals would kind of back away from being.
Yeah.
I ask you, and I'll ask Terry the same question later, if someone came to you and tried to say that Brandon Reed and Donald Trump are in the same mode and we don't need Donald Trump, how do you respond to questions like that?
Well, if they compare me to Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump kind of has the similarities to Ronald Reagan. He's not a politician. He's an outsider. He wants the best for America. He's actually a businessman. What Donald Trump brings to the table is he brings smart people to the table. He knows he's not the expert on everything, and I actually compare myself to Ronald Reagan in that aspect. I know Donald Trump compares himself to Ronald Reagan. We've already surrounded ourselves with our campaign with very smart people. We're ready to go. We have initiatives in place. We know what we want to accomplish, and we have a timeline to accomplish those. So if they want to bring me in with Donald Trump, by all means, 100%, let's roll.
Okay. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And I know you've been spending a lot of time in Marion County.
Absolutely.
And,
having fun.
Wish you well on
Ham
November
Days was awesome.
Well, it's a great event. I know you guys have, Lincoln Days?
Yeah, we have Lincoln Days, but Ham Days was awesome. The atmosphere was just tremendous.
Okay. I'm Dennis George, State Representative Candidate Brandon Reed. For Channel 6 TV Community Focus, I'm Dennis George.